Okay, so your mesenteries are really interesting tissues, and they have the job of basically keeping structures in order, right? So these are double sheets of that peritoneal membrane, and they help to suspend portions of your digestive tract. So if you look at this image on slide 9, you can see that we have here your colon that is clearly suspended, but I also want you to note on the bottom portion of the stomach and the top portion of the stomach that we've had tissue that has been cut away, right? So notice that tissue that's been cut away. And notice also when you're looking here at your small intestine that I'm highlighting, when you see that small intestine, notice that it is not in detail, it's not the right amount, it's not coiled correctly, it's just pulled out like this so that you can see the different parts of the digestive system. In the previous slide, I noted in red where we had part of the mesentery cut away. So let's first talk about the adult ventral mesentery. You find it in two places. You find it between the stomach and the liver, and it stabilizes your stomach and provides a route for your blood vessels. And then you also have it between the liver and the abdominal, anterior abdominal wall, and that helps to stabilize your liver, right? Let me move to the dorsal mesentery. It's often called the greater omentum, and it is an enormous pouch. So at this point, you can pause and go to this YouTube video of Dr. Oz and Oprah from a few years ago, where he actually holds up this pouch. He holds up one that is of a size in a healthy adult, and then he shows one of a size that is in an unhealthy or an obese adult. So it hangs like an apron. And so when a person has a large gut, perhaps it hangs a bit, there is a tremendous amount of adipose tissue in that greater omentum. It does pad your organs, it protects your organs, and it's there for insulation. And we need to have it, but it should not be an enormous size. All right, so again, I'm going to show to you in red. This is where you find the lesser omentum, and this is where you would find the greater omentum. So we also have what's called the mesentery proper. It provides stability, but you do have some movement. It is engaged with parts of the small intestine, the duodenum, and the pancreas, and it helps to lock structures into position. However, when we say lock into position, please remember that there is still some movement there. All right, so if we look at the histology of your digestive tract, there are 4 major layers. We have the mucosa, the submucosa, the muscularis externa, and the serosa. So I'm going to highlight in red. Here we have the serosa, the muscularis externa, the mucosa, and the submucosa, right? So we'll look at these different layers, going from inner to outer. The mucosa is the innermost lining. It's a mucous membrane. So you know that if it's a mucous membrane, we have to have mucus. We have to have these glandular secretions as well. So that mucosal epithelium can either be simple, a single layer, or stratified many layers. Depends on where you find it. So if you think about your mouth, your oral cavity, your pharynx, your esophagus, there's a lot of mechanical stress. Again, you eat things that may cause abrasions on the inside of your mouth. You eat things that are too hot. Sometimes you're eating a piece of hard candy and you actually get a sharp edge on it. So that's stratified squamous epithelium because you do some pretty significant mechanical damage there. But in your stomach, your small intestine, and most of your large intestine, the job is absorption. So this is simple columnar epithelium, and we also have goblet cells there. All right, the external structure of the muscularis externa, right? So here I'm highlighting in green is the muscularis externa, right? So this muscularis externa has smooth muscles. It helps with mechanical processing and moving the materials along the digestive tract. So there's a new word I'm going to introduce to you. I'm coming over here to the text, and you can see that I'm circling the word enteric. So enteric indicates that it has to do with your digestive system, right? So you have an enteric nervous system. It's called your ENS. Some of you may have heard of something called enteric aspirin, or if you've ever been told to give your dog aspirin, you were told to give them the enteric type. Or if you have digestive issues, oftentimes you're told to take enteric aspirin. Well, the naming of the aspirin is a little off because all aspirin actually becomes enteric. But when they put the word enteric on there, that means they've coated it with some type of a sugar buffered coating so that the aspirin does not damage your digestive system, because aspirin is essentially an acid. It's salicylic acid. So let's talk about moving materials through your digestive tract. We have visceral smooth muscle that is controlled by pacesetter cells. And these cells undergo spontaneous depolarization, and that allows for contractions to go through the entire muscle. So your pacesetter cells are going to be found in the muscularis mucosa and the externa, and all of that is surrounding the lumen of your digestive tract. Remember, your lumen is this space, right? It would be like the center of a hose. All right, so if you remember a few slides back, I showed you that we had different layers of muscle. So in this image, you can see that we have longitudinal muscle and we have circular muscle. And anytime we have longitudinal and circular muscle, that allows for whatever organ it is to go through something called peristalsis. So this gold oval is called a bolus. So it's whatever you ate. It's now in your digestive system. It's gone through mechanical stressors. You've made it into this soft ball of material. And so as it's moving from the mouth to the anus, it is going to undergo peristalsis to have the movement occur. Circular muscle contracts first, and it stops the bolus, pushes the bolus that it's behind the food mass, and it's pushing it toward the anus. Then we have contraction of the longitudinal muscles that allows for the muscles ahead of the food mass to contract. And with this pinching of the circular, this contraction of the longitudinal, it pushes the food down the digestive system. All right, so it's waves of contraction in circular muscles. Longitudinal muscles will also shorten the segments. And when that occurs, segmentation is different from peristalsis. Segmentation means that you're churning and moving what you've eaten, that bolus, and it's mixing the contents of your intestines with that bolus. And so the movement is not in one set direction. And it's good to compare segmentation to peristalsis because they are different. It is the movement of food, but peristalsis means in one direction. Segmentation means that you're trying to use it to mix. All right, so now let's talk about how we control digestion. We have neural mechanisms, hormonal mechanisms, and local mechanisms. Before we talk about the specific mechanisms, let's do an overview of all of the mechanisms. The first ones we're going to look at are the neural mechanisms, right? So when you look at what I just circled, we have a box that says central nervous system, one that says myenteric plexus, and another one that says stretch receptors and chemoreceptors. So let's take myenteric plexus first. Myenteric, M-Y, muscle, enteric, digestive system, plexus indicates nervous. Stretch receptors and chemoreceptors are nervous system receptors within the digestive system. The stretch receptors are just that. When you stretch your digestive system by filling it with food, there is a nervous system response. Chemoreceptors, in much the same way, when a specific chemical is present, then you will get a chemical nervous system response. Those are all part of what is called the short reflex. The stretch receptors and the chemoreceptors interact or engage the myenteric plexus. The stretch receptors and the chemoreceptors also send information to your central nervous system. Your central nervous system then also engages the myenteric plexus. Once the myenteric plexus is engaged in digestion, you have peristalsis and segmentation movements that have started, which is indicated here. You also have secretory cells within your digestive system that will be stimulated, and you have enteroendocrine cells within your digestive system that will be stimulated. So entero meaning digestive, and endocrine, you know, means your endocrine system or hormones, substances that are passed through your blood. All right, so once we have the nervous system portion taken care of, let's look down here at the hormonal system or hormonal regulation. So once your nervous system has stimulated the enteroendocrine cells, those enteroendocrine cells will allow for hormones to be released, go into your blood, and then be interactive with secretory cells within your digestive system. All right. Then we have the third portion where we have the local factors. So what happens to the pH? What is the physical stimulation that has occurred by whatever you've eaten? And what is the chemical stimulation that has occurred by whatever you've eaten? Regardless of which of those three it is, those are called local factors, and they will interact also with secretory cells, and they will also interact with the enteroendocrine cells. Right? So that's a basic overview of the different mechanisms that allow for digestion to occur. So when you look at the specific neural mechanisms, you can see that they control the movement of materials based on peristalsis and some secretory functions, as I indicated earlier. You have motor neurons that are located in your myenteric plexus that are going to allow for the control of the muscle contraction and glandular secretion. When thinking about the hormones that assist with digestion, we have at least 18. They don't only affect digestive function, but they also affect other systems. And they're peptides. So scrolling back in your memory, you know that a peptide is made up of amino acids, right? They're produced within your digestive system, within enteroendocrine cells, and the only way they can reach their target organs or areas is through distribution in the bloodstream. Then we have those local mechanisms that I mentioned. That's that third portion. Prostaglandins, histamines, other chemicals, all of these are going to be released into your interstitial fluid. They're going to affect those adjacent cells. Remember, this is local. It's within a small area of the digestive tract. And they are going to respond to changes in pH, chemical stimulus, physical stimulus, and the response is going to be coordinated. But we have to remember that this is local.